Hey everybody, hey unicorns, it's Christina Quick, the Tarot Biz Mentor from the Profitable Psychic Online Business and Divination Academy. It is so great to connect with you guys today and to be here and chat with you guys and just say hey and just the first video of 2020. That's what we're doing today. Hey Caroline, good to see you. And we're hosting it live. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you guys so much for coming over and joining me in the new group. So I just started up the new group this week. We started letting people in at midnight on New Year's Eve, and we actually made it to 100 members in less than 11 hours. And I said if we did that, then we would do the first new training of 2020 live to kind of celebrate. So thank you so much. Hey Sue, welcome. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming in. So today's topic is we're going to be talking about 3 signs that we are in alignment with our divine life purpose and our spiritual business. And our spiritual business is soul calling, basically how we're expressing that. So I'm excited to share that with you guys today. Good to see you guys. Hey Freya, Angel, welcome. Welcome guys. I've got some champagne to finish up from New Year's Eve, so that's what I'm drinking today. And I've got it cut half and half with water, so I'm taking it slow. Good to see you guys. Okay, so before we get started, if you haven't already looked in the unit section, there is a brand new unit section for you to comb through and to look through and to find a lot of cool things in. The very first thing before we get started is I want to make sure that if you haven't already, I want you to download my free mini course. My free mini course is Discover Yours Soul Calling through Spiritual Life Coaching. And what it is it's a booklet. It contains 11 signs that you are not living your divine life purpose. It has a quiz in it, and it has 5 questions, and it will teach you, it'll ask you questions about like what are your preferences, what are your interests, and how do you kind of like deal with certain things in your coaching business. And what that will do is it will tally you up at the very end, and you will be able to figure out like what kind of soul's calling archetype that you have. There's 4 main archetypes, and that's something that I'm going to be continuing to teach on into January. We're going to be talking about those archetypes. We're going to be breaking them down. My goal is to, by the end of January, have a video training made for each of those archetypes, and many of you will actually be multiples of those. I'm 3 out of the 4, and that will actually change. So if you take the quiz 1 year and you take it and you have different values, beliefs, morals, and goals and ambitions, and then you take it next year, you might actually be something a little bit different. So it's a quiz that can kind of grow with you, and it can help you understand like, okay, so what are my interests and what am I really good at? And so from there, we can discover what kind of modalities would actually be awesome for you to pursue. Personally, I am mostly warrior archetype with a little bit of shaman, and then I also have some mystic in there as well. So there is a whole thread that you can post on. So let me know what your results are, and then I can kind of help you kind of figure things out from there. Also, when you get into that free mini course on my Academy website, in fact, let me just give you the link right now and I'll pin it so you guys will have it. So here it is in the comment section. You should be able to see it now. If you do enroll in that, you will get also, there's like, I can't remember how many videos are in there right now. There's probably like 6, 7, maybe 8. We're almost to the 10 video mark. They're all about like between 5 and 15 minutes long, and it just kind of touches on some concepts with spiritual life coaching, and it kind of talks about like how you could actually show up as a spiritual life coach. It also talks about some of the ways that you can market, some of the ways that you can get clients, and I'm going to continue bringing those videos to you guys because I know you really like them. So if you haven't already, get that and download it, and so you have it, and then share your results in the group, in the Profitable Psychic group. Hey Hannah, good to see you. Shelly, good to see you. Meg, there's a lot of you coming in now, so I'm really happy that you are sharing this time with me and celebrating with me for the 100 member celebration, live stream celebration. Okay, so let's get into this because I don't want to spend too much time today doing, conversation and stuff like that. I really want to just give you guys the value, and then we can kind of touch on comments and stuff in the comment section after the video is done. And then I still want to do a little bit of Q&A too. So if we have anybody that has questions. So we're talking about today 3 signs that you are in alignment with your divine life purpose and your spiritual business or your soul's calling. And the very first sign that you are in alignment is that you often give yourself more time than you give other people time. Basically, you give yourself more than you give other people, and you start to give more than you take. Does anybody resonate with that at all? Does anybody understand what I really mean by that? So this is actually going to show up in a lot of different ways, but I'm going to talk about some ways that it really showed up for me and kind of how I knew that I was really starting to become super aligned with my divine life purpose. And, you know, when we're starting our businesses, it's like the sky's the limit. I mean, you can pretty much do anything, right? So there's many different paths and many different journeys that you can take. And of course, we're going to take different journeys and different paths as we go along. We are evolutionary beings, meaning that we're going to continue to evolve and change. And that's really one of the most beneficial things about us, in my opinion, is that we can change, and we can change at any moment, and we have the freedom to do that. Hi, Pamela. Freya says she does. Okay, cool. So, you know, the fact that we give ourselves more time than we give others, or that we are giving more than we are taking, it is really big. This is really huge. This is a huge, huge, huge energy shift, because in the beginning of your spiritual business, it's all about watching, and it's all about emulating others, right? Because that's how we learn. We learn through emulation. And so what this kind of looks like is we read all the blog posts, or we listen to all the podcasts, or we watch all of the videos from the people that we like and admire and want to be like, and feel like that they are further in their path than we are, and so that they become kind of like a mentor to us, right? But when you are becoming aligned with your divine life purpose, that changes. And it changes because it starts looking like you're behind on all of those podcasts, or maybe you haven't watched your favorite people's like newest videos, or you know, maybe you haven't read the blog posts in a long time, or you haven't went back to that website in a while. And what happens is you stop asking questions and chasing people, if that makes sense. And instead you find yourself helping the people around you with the same questions that you originally asked in the beginning, right? Does anybody relate to that? Hey, Damari, good to see you. Hi, Juliana, good to see you. So that's a really good indicator that you are starting to align with your divine life purpose. In the beginning, it kind of feels like being on the hamster wheel. So when you're in the very beginning, you're like doing all these things and you're running, and you don't really feel like you're getting anywhere, right? Like you're just on a wheel that's stuck to a wall. The scenery doesn't change. You're doing all this work. You're putting in the hours. You're doing what you think you need to be doing to get clients on social media or to build up your business. But you look around after like 3 months, 6 months, even a year or two. I have people that are like 2 or 3 years into their business and still struggling with just the very basics of running a business. And so it feels like you're running and going nowhere. The scenery doesn't change. So when you are in alignment with your divine life purpose and you are in alignment with your soul's calling, it can kind of feel like you finally get off that hamster wheel. And then you look over and you're like, why was I making myself crazy? Why was I burning myself out into the ground? I wasn't even getting anywhere. And then you kind of have that perspective, like you can kind of step back and you can look at it from a different perspective. And now that you have gotten off of the hamster wheel, you're able to have that perspective. And it's a privilege and a rite of passage for many of us. And it's like, you just start kind of looking around at things how they really are. You start looking at things like a lot of the smoke and mirrors that you see, a lot of the Instagram ads and the Facebook business page ads that sound too good to be true. You start seeing that they really are, and that it's really about committing to those very basic things and doing those basic things consistently. And that's really the ticket. You might even find that you start like producing more content. So another good idea, another good indication that you are aligned with your divine life purpose is that you stop absorbing other people's content and you start creating your own content. For example, if you sit down in front of your computer and you open up your Google Drive and your Google Docs or whatever, and you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to write about this one or two, maybe three different topics, and I'm going to create a piece of content for it. I don't know how I'm going to, release this. Is it going to be memes? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be what? Is this going to turn into a podcast episode? I don't really know. But if you can literally sit down and just channel that information just from source, from the top of your crown chakra, then you are aligned. And if you don't need to constantly research other people's opinions or research other people's ideas, or you don't need to watch 5 videos to sit down and write a little, a 1 or 2 page little essay type of thing, then you know that you're actually aligned. Then you know you're really speaking from your highest self because you don't rely on other people. You sit there and you do it for yourself. And it's very accomplishing if you can do this. And you might also feel at the same time, I really want to start sharing my work with people. So maybe this is you, and maybe you've been doing this for a long time. You've got folders and folders and books and journals of your own writings. And now you're finally starting to get the urge to kind of share that content with other people. And you may even feel that's kind of one of your first clues that you are being called to a leadership position. It's sort of like where you go from a follower of someone to a leader in your community, and you start to kind of see yourself as almost like a peer to the people that you actually used to look up to. It also means that you have to find more aligned coaches and more aligned programs and things like that. Some of the people that you followed in the past probably aren't speaking to you very much anymore, and that's okay if they don't. It just means that you have gone to the next level, and it's time for you to extend to that next level. And that means creating more content. It means helping more people around you. It means releasing your content and not just hoarding it to yourself, right? That's a big one. It means helping people in your community, or even if you have the inclination to even start your own community. Also, it's about really understanding what's going on around you, especially in the social media world, and having a lot of that smoke and mirrors kind of just fall away, and you start to really see it for what it really, really is. Yes, that's what you feel. Sue says that. Freya says this is a humongous energy shift, but your course really hit home, and it got me doing exactly the changes you were talking about. I'm doing exactly that, going back and doing it over. Thank you. Pamela says totally relates. Angel, yes. Yes. Pamela says, yes, I'm starting at the beginning to refresh myself and my why. It's always a good place to start is your why. Always. Hey, Amethyst. Pamela says, I have to shut my eyes and ears to everyone else so I can do my own stuff. And absolutely, that's when you really start to know that, okay, I am strong enough to do this on my own. I don't need anybody else's inspiration, or, then it becomes a matter of not what I can take from this person. Instead of it becomes more of how can I create like this person? Does that make sense? Juliana says, that's me. Pamela says, yes, I have folders and more than one computer. Right. I know you're the type of person that you have a ton of great ideas. We just need to get it out there and get it going. And so once we get that momentum going, it's just super easy from there. Hey, Jessica, good to see you. Good to see you. All right. So that's sign number 1. Sign number 2 kind of leads us into that, right? So it leads us into the whole idea of belonging to a community, which is really important. It really, really is important, because you cannot build your business alone. You can't. You just can't do it. You might be able to do it, but in very extreme cases, but you're not going to be in the service industry. I can tell you that for sure. You might be able to build a product-based business completely by yourself. That's completely possible. You might be able to be a reseller or have, a reseller online perhaps, but you need to make connections. You need a network of people that understand what it means to have a spiritual business, that goes through the same things that you go through, and that can motivate you when you're not feeling at your best, right? So the best people to surround yourself with are the people that say, yes, you can do this, right? It's not to say that you need to surround yourself with the people that you think are perfect or never have a bad day, because that's not sustainable either. And that's just literally spiritual bypassing. What this means is that you surround yourself with people who are the doers, the people that are committed to their spiritual growth, the people that are committed to raising their income ceilings or breaking through that glass ceiling, right? You need to be around the people that are showing up time after time after time. Consistency. Because when you connect with these people, it's easier for you to be consistent in your own work. Because, like, for example, if on Monday morning I'm not feeling it and I don't want to show up, and I see one of my friends, she's already going live in her group, and or she's pitching something, or she's inviting someone to inviting her community to attend one of her trainings, that's going to immediately flip my switch and make me think, oh, okay, well, this person's doing it, so I need to get my butt out of bed, and I need to get in the shower, and I need to make some coffee, because everything's better after a shower and coffee, right? So your community is really important. But also, if you are someone who wants to run a community, your community members are the people that get you out of bed in the morning too. Like, if I make a commitment, if I make a schedule, then I have to stick with it, right? That means even though I don't always necessarily want to do this, it means that I have to set myself a schedule. I have to commit myself to certain things so that I am forced to show up, so that I can't allow myself to do my natural tendency. My natural tendency is to lay in bed all day with the lights down low and watch Netflix and eat good food. That's like all I want to do in life. That's like my favorite thing to do, right? Netflix and chill. And I could seriously do that 7 days a week, 24/7, and I would let 5 years pass me by and not even miss the outside world. I'm just that kind of introvert where I'm so incredibly introverted. My moon sign is the hermit. It's the Virgo. So I have this habit of I want to shut myself in and I want to shut everything else out. But when I commit to a community, or when I commit to being a community leader, I have to show up. Yeah, I could just not show up, but I am more fearful of that. Like, I don't want to let people down. And so if I know if I have people that are counting on me, even if it feels uncomfortable, then I know that I'm going to show up. So also, if you are like me and you're kind of a loner, like I've been a loner my whole life, like I am completely fine being alone. Put me in a white padded cell. I can entertain myself. Like, I have no problem with my imagination. I have no problem making up games to keep myself motivated and that sort of thing. Like, I could live a solitary life if I wanted to. And it really wasn't until I got into my spiritual business that 2012, well, a little bit before that, because I started going to like the yoga and stuff like that. It was a little bit before that, right when I was going through some major things in my life, and I've talked about this enough already. I really figured out that I was really craving being part of a community. And not only was I craving it, but it was actually easy and fun for me. So that's sign number 2, is that if you are aligned with your divine life purpose and your spiritual business, it's easy and fun to be part of a community, or even your own community. It can also be a community that's just like one for your industry, or like the psychic industry or the tarot reader industry, that sort of thing. Or it could also be a community in which your niche resides. So if you are a self-love coach, or you're really into the soulmate and twin flame thing, there's communities out there for that. Or if you're really into like confidence building and leadership skills and team building skills and things like that, there's niches out there for that. And there's communities out there for that as well. So if before you kind of felt like a wallflower, right? If you always felt like you were on the outside of the glass kind of looking in, and you see everybody else around you having success or having fun in their business or showing up and they're feeling good in their bodies, you know, they're feeling clear mentally, feeling good in their bodies, making good choices. And you're outside looking in on this glass and you feel like there's this glass up against the wall. But, you know, if you feel like you're removed from that, if you feel like you're disconnected from that, then it's not. And that's okay. That's why I'm okay with lurkers in my communities too, because I know it's just a matter of time. I know it's a matter of time between when you feel like you are done and ready to give up this whole being on the outside, being the black sheep, being the outcast sort of story, this narrative that you're telling yourself. Then you can come on in. And on the outside, it kind of looks like there's cliques. On the outside, it looks like there's little groups and cool girl groups and cool entrepreneur groups and things like that. But the biggest shift that you can make is really believing that you actually belong there. And a lot of the times it's not that you're not welcome to be in that clique. It's not like you're not invited to be in that clique. You have to decide that you want to be there, and you have to decide that you want to take up space. I'm going to do more videos in the future about the significance of giving yourself permission to take up space. I think it's really, really important. I think it's a really huge mindset thing for a lot of people, and I want to help you guys with that. But when you are aligned with your divine life purpose, you start reaching out. Like maybe it's small and maybe you can only reach in a little bit here and there. And maybe that's a big thing for you. You know, asking for help has always been one of my weaker things. That's always been one of my very not strong points in my life. I really resent the fact that I have to ask for help. And I will literally do anything and everything I can to not ask for help until it's like a desperation thing and I need it help and I need it now. So I've started working on that, and that's definitely part of being in my divine life purpose is that now I'm okay with asking for help, right? And I've figured out how to ask for help in ways that feels aligned and good with me. If you start to feel like you're craving being part of a community, if you're tired of being alone, if you're tired of just being isolated and you're tired of people not knowing who you are, right? You know, you start to crave being part of that community, and you look for ways that you can help and be a part of that. So for example, I have the moderators in this group, you know, in the Profitable Psychic group. They are also community leaders, but they're also my moderators too. And it's like, they are people that are looking for ways to help, right? And vice versa. I look for ways to help them as well. And so it's this energy of you help me, I help you, and we help one another. And that's really the team building skills that we need to build within ourselves to really be successful and to have a network of people that have our backs and have a network of people that we can, you know, align our energy with and get that motivation that we need to get out and do this thing called owning your own spiritual business. And that can be kind of crazy to some people, but I promise if you have a good team around you, then it's a lot easier. And when you're within your divine life purpose, you feel like you actually start to belong, right? You start to put down your roots. And that's huge for a lot of people. And when you do that, when you're around people who you know have your back, who can help you, and vice versa, then you find ways to help out and you don't really hide anymore. So let me give you guys an example. So for the longest time, probably years, whenever I was out and about and anybody ever asked me like what I did for a living, like it always comes up at like family gatherings or like my husband's corporate business parties and things like that. Everybody wants to know, what do you do, right? I used to make up a phony template for myself. I used to just tell people that I was an accountant, which is true. I am an accountant for my own business. Or I used to tell people that I am a business consultant, which is true. I am a business consultant. But now I know that what I do helps people so profoundly. Like I've built that trust within myself. I've built that trust with my audience. I've built that trust over years of delivering quality, high-end products and services and things like that, that now I want everybody to know. Like I will tell you, even if you don't want to know. I'm the type of person now that anytime I go into like a Walmart or anytime I go into like a store or a place of business where I know that they're making minimum wage, I look at them and I try to talk to them. I try to talk to those women, especially because it's mostly women in the lower paying jobs and the service jobs like fast food or, you know, working at Walmart or grocery stores and things like that. Now I talk to them. In fact, I talk to them at parties and stuff like that too. I have business cards in my purse. I just hand them out like they're free candy. I just give them to everybody. I remember one of my, two recent interactions I had is I went to Walmart, I went to the deli to go get some fried chicken because I was really craving some fried chicken. And so I was talking to the girl and she's like, well, the fried chicken's almost done. You need to wait like 5-10 minutes or whatever, right? So I was like, okay, no problem. And then I just found ways to like talk to her, you know? I was like, so how long have you been a chef? You know, because I like to place people in their highest potential. She worked in a deli. She was making minimum wage, but I said, how long have you been a chef? Because, you know, the only difference between what she's doing and, you know, some high-end like culinary restaurant is location. That's really it. Location and experience, right? And presentation. There's really no difference. And she's like, oh, well, I'm not a chef. And I said, well, yes, you are. You make food for a living. I mean, that's what chefs do, right? And I'm like, you can't tell me that you don't try really hard. You can't tell me that you don't take pride in your work. She's like, no, I do. And I said, I started looking, I look for markers. Like, for example, if she has a lot of tattoos or she has like bright colored hair or piercings, or she looks like one of my people. She looks like I would hang out with her as a friend, you know? I said, are you spiritual at all? And she said, not really. No, I went to church when I was little, but I didn't really get into it. I said, oh, I said, well, I'm a professional tarot reader. And she's like, her eyes got all big, you know? And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I've always been interested in that, but I've never understood how to do that. And I said, yeah, actually, I started out working for the psychic hotlines and I was able to quit my job. And now I can, I stay at home and I work from home and I teach people how to do that. You know, I teach people how to make $100 an hour on the psychic hotlines. And her eyes just like, her eyes just got real big. And she's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, do you want to be friends? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I got out my phone and we added each other on Facebook right then and there. I added her to my group and I do this everywhere I go. I just recently did this at my husband's corporate Christmas party. I found the girl that was hiding herself in the corner, the smoker girl that was outside. I don't smoke. My husband does vaping, e-cigarette. So I'll go out there and hang out with the smokers. Because I was a smoker for like 4 or 5 years. I was a 2-pack a day smoker. I haven't smoked since, 2012. I haven't smoked since 2012. So it's been a long time. Maybe a little bit after that, but somewhere around there. Anyways, so I found that girl and then we started talking about like tattoos and stuff like that. And we started doing tattoo tours. I showed her on my legs and I showed her my arms. And we just started talking about tattoos. And I noticed that she had a bat tattoo. And it was kind of like woo-woo, witchy. And I'm like, are you into spirituality? She's like, no, not really. And then again, I went through this whole spiel, this whole speech. And we talked about how she was working at, she's working at a school with developmentally challenged children. And she's getting literally beat up and kicked and bit and punched. And she's only making like, $9 an hour. And so I added her to the group, got her on Facebook. And so now we're friends. And so I used to be this is a long drawn out way of saying that I used to be that person that used to hide. I used to be that person that would make up a story, any story other than what was my real life to tell strangers because I didn't want to, have other people think a certain way about me. And now I am the type of person in my divine life purpose that I literally go out there and I try to find people and I try to find people to rescue because I know that I can help them and I know what I teach works. And when you have that type of confidence in yourself, you are really aligned and it's easy to talk about yourself. You start to get more curious about like, if you were someone who used to listen to podcasts, you start thinking, hey, I could actually maybe do that. Maybe I should start applying to some podcasts. Or you start connecting with some other people doing collaboration projects. Like I do the Summer of Magic and the 12 Days of Christmas twice a year. That's our biannual video summit collaboration where I get all of my business besties and we all come and present workshops for you guys and stuff like that. So if you start getting to the point where you're like, hey, I could do that, and then you actually do it, you are in alignment. So I'll just pause right now for some comments. Juliana says, I don't know how to put it all together, but I'm learning. And that's the thing. It's more, no, let me be straight honest with you. Nobody 100% knows what they're doing all of the time. It's just not that way. But if you say, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it anyway, and I don't know exactly how it's going to come about, like that's going to be one of the next things we'll talk about. Hannah says, I would love some tips for networking. It's a vast subject for sure. And I could do another video. So let me write myself a note. So let me see. So tips, networking. 3 tips for networking. All right, Hannah, you got it. That'll be one of the videos we do. Pamela says, I think I'm going to archive my group and open up one I started a couple years ago. And that's what I just recently did too, basically. I archived some groups and said goodbye to some communities and things like that because they're just honestly no longer aligned with who I am now. Pamela says, okay, you just convinced me. Marissa says, I could totally do that, right? Juliana says, mine too, eat and watch YouTube. Right? Marissa says, mine is cancer, definitely can relate. Oh, yeah, so yes, me and you could just sit and watch Netflix and just, that's it. Plus the interactions are worth it. And it really is, Marissa. It really is. That's so true. Pamela is a cancer and she can do solitary no problem. Hannah says, I was a lurker for quite a while there. Yeah, and I was too. And everybody goes through those stages, I promise you. Freya says, I have a lot of questions about that, about being part of a group. I sometimes feel like I just don't belong and that I'm forcing it. And that's just your monkey mind telling you that is your brain trying to sabotage you. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes you are not aligned with that. And you have to ask yourself why. Is it because that you don't agree with like their values, morals, beliefs? Or is it because you think you're unworthy? And those are 2 points. Like you can kind of go like a flow chart. Like what is really the root cause of why I don't feel like I belong here? Do I feel like I don't belong here because there's something fishy about the morals, ethics, values, beliefs that this represents and it doesn't jive with what I feel in my heart? Like, is it just like, I feel that this is wrong? Or is it a matter of, they're too good for me, or I don't feel worthy, or I'll never be like them, or something like that? If it's, I don't feel worthy, I'll never be like them, they're so much better than me, blah, 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 that is your monkey mind trying to sabotage you. You do belong. You really do. It's just you haven't given yourself permission to belong, if that makes sense. Pamela says, that's why I was comfortable in Christina's groups and psychic development. Thank you. I try to make it really comfortable for everybody. Julia says, I think I'll make fried chicken for dinner. Sounds good. I could eat fried chicken every day. Fried chicken, greens, and mac and cheese. Literally every day. That could be for me. Pamela says, I'd be the girl in the corner, right? Me too. I was that way too. Juliana says, this is inspiring me to stop hiding. Good. Catherine, hi Catherine. Hope I didn't miss too much. Was giving a Reiki session. Oh, well, you had very important business to take care of, so you're excused. Marissa says, I'm the person in the corner as well, but I also cross paths with people in bookstores and parties that are getting interested in animism and nature spirits. Exactly. And so how can you better prepare yourself to have those conversations with people? That's something to kind of look at. Hey, Jennifer. Pamela says, you and Susie just archived. I don't feel disconnected from my group. Good. Good. Freya says, I think for me, it has always comes to the root of I'm unworthy. And that's something that you're going to have to work on, right? And there's nobody that's telling you that besides yourself. And once we realize that, it's like, oh, crap. Now it becomes like, I can either do this and I can be a part of that, or I can continue to be in the background. And the negative part of that is nobody else can really force you to do it unless you pay people to hound you to do it, Yeah, Pamela says, this is exactly what I learned about groups and doing circles. Yeah. Freya says, it makes perfect sense. I am currently fighting that monkey mind. Yeah, I know. And it's a choice. Sometimes I have those same things too. I mean, everybody, even the most popular celebrities, even the people that you see on television all the time, they still go through these things. And honestly, if you didn't, you would probably be a sociopath, and that would probably be a bad thing, right? So it's actually a good thing that you're sensitive. It's a good thing that you feel those feelings. It's just, we have to summon that courage. We have to ignite that courage within ourselves. That's solar plexus level. So I would say, Freya, dedicate 2020 to your solar plexus. Dedicate 2020 to activating your solar plexus, standing in your power, learning to stand on your own 2 feet, deciding that you're worthy of being at the table, and then sit down at the table. And then from there, you can figure things out from there. But the first step is just to sit down at the table and say, I'm worthy of being here. And that's really profound, quite honestly. Okay. Number 3, you attract spirit helpers who help you achieve your goals. Okay. So in the very beginning, it feels like we're alone. It feels like we don't have anybody. And then little by little, we start to, make friends, or we start to belong in communities, or speak up and ask for help. We start to see how we can be part of like podcasts or collaborations, or actually just, start being seen more and putting ourselves as like our main photo as our profile, and branding ourselves and not thinking that we're talking about ourselves too much. There's really no such thing as that. If people are happy for you, and Like, there is literally no such thing as over promotion when people are happy for you and when they're aligned with your message. When people start to kind of dip out, it's because they're not really aligned with that, or you trigger something within them that they're not quite ready to face. Either way, there's really no such thing as talking about what you do too much. There's no such thing as talking about the thing too much that you do. And there's no such thing as over promotion. It just doesn't exist. Because the people that you want around you are the people that are going to root for you, that don't mind seeing your advertisements, that don't mind hearing about your business. I could sit and talk business for hours and hours and hours on end with people because I'm excited about it. I am passionate about it. And you want to surround yourself with people that are. And if you notice that some people just kind of exit and they just kind of leave your life, it's because they're not as passionate about it as you are. And just let them go. Maybe they'll come back at a later point, when they deal with what they're dealing with. But it's never about you, and it's about them and their response to that and their insecurities and everything like that, right? So so let's say you start attracting people around you. You start making friends. You start joining community. You start showing up online. You start making videos, or you start releasing a podcast or something like that. And you start even wanting to share that information with people, not just releasing it, but you're like, okay, maybe I want to run ads to it, or maybe I want to post it in a group, or maybe I want to, share it with some 10 of my closest friends and ask for feedback or something like that. So if you are that type of person, then what's going to naturally happen when you are aligned with your divine life purpose and your soul's calling is that people are going to flock to help you. People are just going to show up, and they're going to show up with either opportunities or, service that they can help you with. Now, does that mean that sometimes that you're going to have to buy into courses, or you're going to have to coach with someone and spend money? Yes, but it doesn't always mean that either. It also means that, like, you might become friends with someone who has their own podcast that's reasonably successful, and maybe you show up as a guest interview with them, and maybe it doesn't cost you any money, but you get a lot of exposure, and you get a lot of experience doing that sort of thing. Also, maybe you just make some really great friends, right? So when you are in your divine life purpose and you are aligned, you start attracting helpful people that, like, you're thinking, like, where were all these people before? Where were all these people when I was struggling so hard? It's because you weren't asking for help. You weren't showing up. You weren't allowing those opportunities and those people to find you. And that's really what it boils down to. So if you are the type of person that you sit down and you have your journal and your messy pile of papers and your tons of piles of papers, right? And you think, okay, right? You sit down with it and you're like, wow, this is a lot. I have a lot here. Maybe I'm not sure exactly how it's going to show up. Maybe I'm not sure if it's going to be like a video or a podcast or a book or a course or a framework for a coaching program that I'm going to start. If you sit down and you look at that stuff and you think to yourself, okay, I have this big dream. This is what I want to do. And I'm not sure how it's going to happen. I'm not sure how it's going to manifest, but I am trusting you, God, universe, source, spirit, my spirit helpers, my angels, my ancestors, whomever, right? I am trusting that the universe is going to deliver me the right people, the right experiences, and the right opportunities to do this work. So it's like, it comes to a point where you're having like a come to Jesus moment with the universe, right? You're like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. And I am trusting that you will support it, right? It's a huge shift in your mindset. And it really comes from the law of attraction, because what you're doing is you are putting out the frequency of, this is what I'm doing, like it or not, rain or shine, this is what I'm going to do. And I will figure it out along the way. And guess what happens? I mean, think back to any difficult time you've ever had in your life. I mean, you have 100% success rate at this point. You're still here. You're still breathing, right? So you figured out things along the way. So this is no different. You're going to figure things out along the way. And what you'll notice is that people will just start becoming attracted to you. They'll align with your message. They'll align with your spirit, your integrity, your authenticity, all those kind of things. And when you start putting it out there, people will just naturally begin to help you. They will just naturally start to ask how they can help. And that's can be kind of difficult for some people, as we kind of talked earlier about that. The ability to ask for help is the first step, right? And you'll begin to see people just pop up everywhere. Like, you'll just have people friending you and trying to join your community and following on YouTube or Instagram or all these places that you are. And they'll just kind of pop up and they'll say, I found you through your content. Or Even I've had people say, I read a discussion you had with someone else in some other group. It had nothing to do with me, but I was struggling with something like that. And I really appreciated the time that you took to answer that person. And so I want to connect with you, right? And so you begin to start having people around you that are like, I really like your energy, or I really like what you're doing, or I wish that I could be like you, right? You start becoming inspiring, and that's just the energy that you're putting out. And this means that you are embodying your divine life purpose and your soul's calling in the way that it is supposed to be embodied right now. And this will change, guaranteed. I mean, you will change. You will there's always another highest expression of yourself, right? Like if we are not expanding and growing and evolving, we're dead, right? So even when we're 89 years old, there's still going to be another highest expression of ourselves, because abundance is limitless. There is no cap to abundance, and abundance is actually a natural byproduct. Everything is abundant in nature. Trees are born with more seeds and more fruit and than they could ever possibly replant, right? So when you think about the natural cycle, that everything is in plentiful, more than you could ever use in one lifetime, right? And so when you are in your divine life purpose and align with that, you start attracting people that you can share that abundance with. And you start attracting people that will help you clear that path. So if you have some things that are preventing you from doing something, maybe you'll have someone show up that helps you with that specific thing. Could be a mentor, guide, teacher, could just be a friend, could be anything. But basically, you start to see that path, right? And it starts to clear. It starts to become more into focus, and you see what you actually need to do to grow and evolve. So you start to see, like, you start being more forward thinking, right? Does that make sense with everybody? Caroline says, you have been such a great help to me. This group is always supportive. Thank you so much, Caroline. Juliana says, I am worthy of being here. You are. You are. Freya says, I'm doing exactly that. 2020 solar plexus. Good. Pamela says, I have been revamping over the holidays, and the holidays are always a good time to do that. Absolutely. Marissa says, when you told us that unless we were on someone else's summit or podcast, we were not promoting enough, that blew me away. Yeah, and that's another thing too. There's always different things, different ways that you can promote, and I try to find, on a personal level, I try to find at least one thing I can do every single month to just expand my audience. It's kind of like, and I try to tell this to my people who I've been coaching for 1 or 2 years now, like my people that have been with me, especially my mods, Susie, Chelsea, and Marissa, and Pamela too, they have been people that have been coaching with me for several years now. And so in the beginning, it's kind of like this. Let me give you like a visual representation of it, okay? So in the very beginning, it's kind of like you're a little sapling and you're growing into a tree, and it becomes a matter of growing upwards, right? And so sometimes we can grow upwards too fast, and so we can kind of sway and kind of topple over, right? And so the real trick is to find that balance between growing up and growing out, and making sure that that number 4 foundation is going to be able to support that triangle that we're building. So most people try to build up in a straight line, and it doesn't work, right? It's not secure. But if you build at a triangle and you start to widen yourself, like at the 1 year mark, you start doing like podcasts and you start doing guest blogs and telesummits and things like that. What you're doing is, instead of growing upwards, instead of growing your vines upwards, you're growing your vines outwards. And what that does is it provides a bigger perimeter for you to take up space, and it provides a sturdier foundation so that you can go higher and higher and higher and higher. Now, it is a slower way to build a business, but it is it's a way to build a business that in 6 or 7 years, you're going to be fully supported, and you're not going to have to go back to those things that you already should have conquered, that you already should have mastered at the very beginning, if that makes sense. Hey, Lynn, good to see you. All right, so I have one more sign for you. It is the bonus sign, and that is that you tend to think long-term picture, right? Whereas before, maybe you could barely make a plan a few days in advance. So who are these people? Who are these people that you really, really struggle with planning anything? You struggle with planning any type of event. You struggle with meeting even deadlines and things like that. So when you are aligned with your divine life purpose and your soul's calling, it becomes easier for you to think in terms of like next week, next month, next quarter. I have stuff planned out all the way to the till October this year. You even start thinking about, okay, what are my goals 1 year from now, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Where do I want to be in 10 years, right? You start thinking about your legacy, and you start thinking about what you're doing right now and how that is going to support you 10 years from now. You start thinking, what am I doing right now? Is this going to, am I still going to profit from this in 5 years, right? Is this going to be working for me in 5 years? Right now, I'm working for it. I'm putting in the hours. I'm showing up. I'm writing out the courses. I'm recording all the videos, right? Like in the beginning, we're working for it, right? But a really good sign that you're in your divine life purpose and you're completely aligned is that you know that 5 years from now you cannot touch it, and you know it's just as valuable as it was 5 years ago as it is now. And that's why I'm so big on teaching you guys how to create evergreen content, and stop with this messages of the week, cards of the week, cards of the day. Stop with this tarot scope stuff. That stuff is not going to support you 5 years from now. That is a band-aid. That is a short-term solution that will get you a little bit of money right now, but it's not going to help you build a $1 million, $5 million business in the next 10 years. Okay. A little bit of hard love there, but it's true nonetheless. And when I started doing this, it completely shifted. And now I have products and things like that I sell that I created 4 years ago, and they're still just as valuable today as they were 4 years ago. And so that's when you start thinking about, okay, what am I creating and how is it going to support me 6 months, a year, 5 years from now, right? And so what happens is, it's really interesting what happens. It's called timeline collapsing, right? In manifestation or law of attraction work. So if you are an LOA junkie, you might kind of understand this concept. This might be a new concept for you, but this is a really exciting concept, and I'll tell you what I mean. So when you do this, when you start thinking ahead, a week, a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, time begins to start collapsing in on itself. And so you see yourself as this thing in linear space. And then you see yourself as this thing where one day that would be nice, right? Or one day I'll be skinny enough, or one day I'll be good enough, or one day I'll be whatever, enough, right? Those enough traps that we kind of catch ourselves in. When you stop doing that, and when you just start planning things ahead and you start sticking to your commitments and showing up for your commitments, time starts to just collapse in on itself. So you're right here, you want to be right here, and it just starts to kind of collapse into itself. And those 2 points, they begin to meet. And it's no longer a matter of something is in the future or something is unobtainable. It's right now. And that's one of the most profound things I think that I've learned this last couple of years with the law of attraction is time collapsing. And it means that you literally create your own wormholes. You create your wormholes from one reality, the reality of who you are right now, and the alternate reality, your quantum self, the person you want to be. By the way, I do have 2 trainings on that. It's the Master Manifestor and the Master Psychic Activations. They're available on www.theprofitablepsychic.com. They are a hypnosis quantum leaping session. It's a recorded call. There's one that's 2 hours. That's one that's 1 hour. And that's what that purpose is for. They help you collapse those timelines so that you can align with that alternate self right here, right now. You can take that vibration into your current reality, right? So what happens is the time between those 2 realities begins to grow shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until they collapse. And in the beginning, it can feel like nothing's happening. There's about a 3-month delay. That's what I've noticed, is that when you start making changes and you start embodying a different type of alternate reality, it takes about 3 months, or at least that's what I've kind of learned for myself. So on the outside, it kind of looks like nothing's really happening. Maybe you're not really making as many sales as you thought you were going to, or maybe your content's not as popular as you thought it was going to. Just wait, because what's happening is you have changed, you have fundamentally shifted on the inside, and now you have to affect that reality on the outside. And it can take a little bit longer. The physical reality is always longer. It always takes more energy, and it takes longer time, linear time, to adjust than the inner space time does. And so it can seem like nothing's happening, but then all of a sudden, bam, you wake up and things start happening. You start seeing people coming around. You start getting, it just kind of snowballs. Like it's like a little trickle snowball down the mountain, right? And then it just grows into this big thing. And then eventually it gets its own momentum and its own sustainability. And then it kind of takes off into its own thing. And then you don't have to babysit it like you normally do, right? But trust me, it will come. And it's because of these three things that I'm talking about today. Stop taking from other people so much and start giving, start creating your own content, right? Number two, start believing that you belong in a community or create a community for yourself. And three, accept the help that when it comes to you. And those three things are what is really going to change everything for you. It really will. Lynn says, I've been building the foundation. That's good. That's good. Juliana says, makes so much sense. This feels like me, the triangle. I get it. Marissa says, used to be me, totally. Lynn says, somewhat with planning. Yeah. Catherine says, funny, this is coming up, slowly moving into planning mode lately. That has been a struggle in the past, but things are falling into place now. Good. It means that you're becoming more and more aligned. Freya says, this is me because I have all the plans. It gets easy to make it happen. Then something swan dives in to divert the path. I'm trying to get back to knowing what that the universe is working with me, right? And at some point, we have to place our own priorities above other people, and that's just the reality of it. I know that sounds harsh, but nobody else is going to do for you what you're going to do for yourself. So at some point, you have to decide that I'm a priority and that what I need to do is more important than anybody else's, right? Catherine says, I love the idea of legacy being a sign that you're following your life purpose. I've thought more about my legacy since I started my spirit biz than I ever have in my life before. Isn't that interesting how that kind of happens? For sure. I'm absolutely the same way. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you so much for being here for this live training. Thank you for being in this energy with me. Thank you for manifesting this amazing group with me. Manifesting where I bet you we're going to be at 150 members by Sunday. I'm going to proclaim that that's going to happen. So we're going to make it happen. And, over to you. So I want to know in the comments below if you want to share with me after this live training is done, do you relate to any of these signs? Are there any other signs that maybe you kind of thought to yourself, but I didn't talk about today? So, or maybe different ways that it kind of shows up for you. I am really, really, really curious about how that is showing up for you. And I do have two things that I'm running right now. So if you don't know, if you've just joined us, I have the 31-day spiritual business divination challenge. 31 days of spiritual business card prompts. You can use any deck you like. I'm using the Divine Feminine. Here it is. I'm using the Divine Feminine deck by Meg Watterson. And you can do whatever you want. You can use oracle cards, tarot cards, you can use runes, you can use I Ching, you can literally do whatever. You can change it up however you want. There's a prompt that goes out at 7 a.m. in the Profitable Psychic group. And then I think the Instagram prompt goes out at 8:15, and that's Central Standard Time. Also, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Tarot Biz Mentor. That's where some of it is. But if you want a closed space to kind of talk about some things, you can come into the group. And I also have a spot in the group where you can see all of the prompts. So if you miss a day, you can go back and get them. Also, we are doing the very first Profitable Psychic book club. So we are starting with Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it's about creative living and breaking through the fear. And we are hosting that in the unit section of the Profitable Psychic group. And as always, if you are interested, I would love for you to check out. I have a brand new course that I created last year. It's a 12-module training. A lot of you are already in it. I think we have close to maybe 60 or 70 of you in it right now. I would love to get to 100 by the end of first quarter 2020. And what it is it's 12 modules. There's a 305-ish page workbook of prompts and videos and things like that. There's 25 hours of video, and it talks to you. It really, the first part of it is how to break through a lot of the fear. So the very first part is the mindset part of it, and then we go into how to find content, how to create a compelling transformational story, how to create courses and packages and so many different things. There's a lot to it. But the benefit is that you get to join the private group with me and you get to have feedback on your homework. You also will get invited if you do the whole course and you graduate from the course, you will also get the opportunity to do the Summer of Magic and the 12 Days of Christmas collabs with me that we just did. So if you are tired of watching everybody else do the collabs and you're like, I want to do the collabs, this is the first step on how you actually get to do that. So I'm going to drop the link real quick and let you guys look at that. It's $222 to get in right now. It's January 2020. That could change. But there is the link. And Freya says, can you tell me how I can share our group with my community on Freya's Nest? Yes, I will have this on a YouTube video, and I will have this on a long post on my Facebook page, and I will post a shareable version in the group. So if you want to share this video and you want to share this knowledge and you want to share the free course, the Discover Your Spiritual Life Calling, Spiritual Life Purpose through, that's a tongue twister. Discover Your Soul's Calling through Spiritual Life Coaching. Try saying that 10 times fast. I will have that for you guys so you can share that out. So again, I just thank you guys so much. Juliana says, this course helped me so much. My goal is to be in the Summer of Magic, and you're going to do it, and we're going to do it together. So I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Friday. I hope you have an even more amazing weekend. And I will see you guys next Monday for Magical Monday morning. And I will have some motivational things kind of going out. So I'll see you guys in the group. Bye.